15 years ago, on the 9th of January in 2007, the iPhone, the original iPhone, was revealed by Steve Jobs at Macworld, and we're going to talk about that today. Let's react to that original announcement. I'm Mike Dave, and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. And if you want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours every weekday at 1300 UTC, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring my bell. And let's just get into the mood.
This is a day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years. Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything.
Want to say that was prophetic? I think you'll find that was pretty accurate 15 years on.
Apple has been, well, first of all, one's very fortunate if you get to work on just one of these in your career. Apple's been very fortunate. It's been able to introduce a few of these into the world. In 1984, we introduced the Macintosh. It didn't just change Apple, it changed the whole computer industry.
100%. Like, the Macintosh was a crazy change.
In 2001, we introduced the first iPod. And it didn't just change the way we all listen to music. It changed the entire music industry.
Also true.
Well,
100%.
Today, we're introducing 3 revolutionary products of this class. The first one is a widescreen iPod with touch controls. The second is a revolutionary mobile phone.
That's what everyone was there to see. Nobody cared about the iPod, really. They were there to see the phone. Turns out, all the same thing.
And the third is a breakthrough internet communications device. So, 3 things. A widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary
I don't know why I just turned blue, but I did.
phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device.
Such an iconic moment.
And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
I think it's worth taking a moment to think that not just journalists in this audience, 4,000 people at Macworld, but also engineers that had worked on iPhone, that had worked on individual parts of the iPhone itself, didn't necessarily know what the phone would be called. They'd never seen the hardware. If they were software engineers, they'd only seen what I think were called wallabies, which were like a kind of screen attached to a board where everything else was external, not seeing what it looked like. The only team that knew what it looked like was probably Johnny Ive's team in industrial design, and then Scott Forstall's team in software kind of only saw the software part, but knew it would be on like a touch screen, didn't know what the back would look like, didn't know how it would feel in the hand. So very, very kind of disparate way of doing things. And Apple didn't even own the name iPhone at the time. It was owned by a different company that they just went, well, we're going to call it that and then we'll deal with it later. Steve's like that.
And here it is.
And this was actually hilarious because this is one of the other prototypes that they were making at the time. They had got an iPhone that was going to use a Clickwheel interface. So you would be going through in the same way that you would on an iPod. And this was another concept they were working on. It wasn't going to look exactly like this, but pretty much the interface is about right.
No. Actually, here it is, but we're going to leave it there for now. So,
such a tease.
Before we get into it, let me talk about a category of things. The most advanced phones are called smartphones.
This is also a really important slide. This is when he was talking about how hard to use smartphones at the time were. Regular dumb cell phones were not particularly easy to use either, but iPhone was designed to be easy and smart.
So,
and I think
we're going to reinvent the phone. Now, we're going to start with a revolutionary user interface. Is the result of years of research and development, and of course it's an interplay of hardware and software. Now, why do we need a revolutionary user interface? I mean, here's 4 smartphones, right? Motorola Q, the BlackBerry, Palm Treo, Nokia E62, the usual suspects. And what's wrong with their user interfaces? Well, the problem with them is really sort of in the bottom 40 there. It's this stuff right here. They all have these keyboards that are there whether you need them or not to be there.
Completely true. This is something that changed a lot as well over time, but Apple uses what the label is on something in a web form, for example. If it knows that it's an email address, it will automatically populate things like .co.uk or .com if you're in the UK. It will add the @ button to the base keyboard rather than having to go through to a second keyboard for it. There's a lot of things that Apple does that just make things quicker, but you don't even notice that it's changing. Very, very clever.
They all have these control buttons that are fixed in plastic and are the same for every application. Well, every application wants a slightly different user interface, a slightly optimized set of buttons just for it. And what happens if you think of a great idea 6 months from now? You can't run around and add a button to these things. They're already shipped. So what do? It doesn't work because the buttons and the controls can't change. They can't change for each application, and they can't change down the road if you think of another great idea you want to add to this product.
Huge revolution at the time. People just weren't thinking in this way at all.
What we're going to do is get rid of all these buttons and just make a giant screen.
First reveal of what the iPhone actually looked like to the crowd as well, and nobody really
communicate this?
knew
We don't
what
want to carry around a mouse, right? So what are we going to do? Oh, a stylus, right? We're going to use a stylus. No. No. Who wants a stylus?
iPad users?
You have to get them and put them away, and you lose them. Yuck. Nobody wants a stylus. So let's not use a stylus. We're going to use the best pointing device in the world. We're going to use a pointing device that we're all born with. We're born with 10 of them. We're going to use our fingers. We're going to touch this with our fingers. And we have invented a new technology called multitouch, which...
Bear in mind how revolutionary multitouch was at the time. Touch screens at the time pretty much were all resistive, so you had to like poke them, like physically push them in order for it to register. Multitouch obviously was capacitive. It allowed multiple fingers to put inputs into the display as well, and that makes a huge difference. Things like being able to do the pinch to zoom, being able to scroll, inertial scroll, also things like rubber banding at the top and bottom of lists absolutely blew the crowd away.
Phenomenal. It works like magic.
Steve loves magic.
You don't need a stylus. It's far more accurate than any touch display that's ever been shipped. It ignores unintended touches. It's super smart.
Hopefully.
You can do multi-finger gestures on it, and boy, have we patented it. So,
this is also why he was so angry at Android when Android came out and used basically all of the interactions that Apple had really kind of pioneered for these things.
We've been very lucky to have brought a few revolutionary user interfaces to the market. Now, why would we want to run such a sophisticated operating system on a mobile device? Well, because it's got everything we need. It's got multitasking. It's got the best networking.
All of this was true as well at the time. iPhone did run a kind of limited version of macOS. It used a lot of the same core technologies, and it ran it all on an ARM processor. Even the original iPhone ran on ARM. It was using a Samsung chip that was designed for set-top boxes. They underclocked it to get the battery life, and it worked great. There's a few little things to it. You know, it didn't have quick animations, but it worked smoothly and it worked well for the time.
Already knows how to power manage. We've been doing this on mobile computers for years. It's got awesome security and to write apps. It's got everything from Cocoa and the graphics, and it's got core animation built in, and it's got the audio and video that OS X is famous for. It's got all the stuff we want, and it's built right in to iPhone. And that has let us create desktop-class applications and networking. Tens of millions of people that know how to sync these devices with their PCs or Mac and sync all of their media right onto their iPod.
Rest in peace, right? iTunes.
So you just drop your iPod in, and it automatically syncs. You're going to do the same thing with iPhone. It automatically syncs to your PC or Mac right through iTunes. And iTunes...
Bear in mind, when you were also unfamiliar with phones, unfamiliar with the idea of typing on a glass surface, being able to just sync your email addresses and your email setup across to this, and it already being there, is a great advantage.
Sync all your media onto your iPhone, your music, your audiobooks, podcasts, movies, TV shows, music videos, just like an iPod. Charge and sync. Third thing I want to talk about a little is design. We've designed something wonderful for your hand.
The first time a lot of the engineers got to see it.
And this is what it looks like. It's got a 3.5-inch screen on it. It's really
Still
big.
Very familiar looking.
And it's the highest resolution screen we've ever shipped. It's 160 pixels per inch. Highest we've ever shipped. It's gorgeous. And on the front,
Retina.
there's only one button down there. We call it the home button. It takes you home from wherever you are. And that's it. Let's take a look at the side. It's really thin. It's thinner.
I think the new iMac might be a little bit thinner.
Any smartphone out there at 11.6 millimeters, thinner than the Q, thinner than the Blackjack, thinner than all of them.
So we're just going to skip into the first demo of the iPod function, because this is when he first started interacting with the phone. This is when people really kind of blew their minds, when we get into going through lists, going through all this sort of stuff, which 15 years ago was just not a thing you could do.
Now, I've got some special iPhones up here. They've got a little special board in them, and so I can get some digital video out. And I got a little cord here which goes up to these projectors, and so I got some great images, and you get to see what it really looks like. So I've got a camera here so you can see what I'm doing with my finger for a few seconds.
Even just doing this in real time, probably pretty hard work at the time.
I'm going to go ahead and just push the sleep-wake button, and there we go, right there. And to unlock the phone, I just take my finger and slide it across.
This was how Apple fixed pocket dialing.
Go to sleep. We wanted something that you couldn't do by accident in your pocket, and just slide it across, boom. And this is the home screen of iPhone right here. And so if I want to get in the iPod, I just go down that lower right-hand corner and push this icon right here, and boom, I'm in the iPod. I want to get home, I push the home button right here, and I'm home. Back in the iPod, I'm back in the iPod. Now here I am, you can see 5 buttons across the bottom, playlists, artists, songs, videos, and more. I'm in artists right now. Well, how do I scroll through my list of artists? How do I do this? I just take my finger and I scroll. That's it.
Listen to that reaction for being able to scroll on a touchscreen. Just bonkers that this is where we were 15 years ago.
Isn't that cool? A little rubber banding up when I run off the edge.
And that's really important as well, but the rubber banding stopped people from thinking that their screen was broken if they were trying to scroll further up a list they thought was longer. It just tells you visually you've got to the end. There's nothing else here. Great.
I want to pick somebody. Let's say I want to pick the Beatles. I just tap them. And here's the Beatles songs with their albums right here. I want to play Sgt. Pepper's. I just hit Sgt. Pepper's right there. And You know, a little help from my friends.
And we're going to stop it there so that I don't get this entire video taken down by the Beatles. He then goes on to show off the video functionality with the Office and things like that. Again, we're not going to show that because it will just get taken down.
Pretty cool, huh? We've just started. The phone. Now, what's the killer app? The killer app is making calls. It's amazing. It's amazing how hard it is to make calls on most phones. Most people actually dial them every time. Most people don't have very many numbers in their address book. They use their recents as their address book, right? How many of you do that? I bet more than a few. So you've got everybody's numbers with you at all times.
Yeah, this was kind of going into that personal assistant thing that just people, that's what people wanted at the time, and people didn't really have anything that did it well. The idea of being able to sync everything from your email and your contacts on your Mac to your phone, just, again, revolutionary.
I'm good. How you doing?
Well, it's been 2.5 years, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am to make the first public phone call with iPhone.
Obviously, Johnny Ive knew what these things looked like. This, I think, is the first time he was showing how to type on it as well, and threaded text messages, also not a thing that we had at the time.
Right? It's that simple. And when Phil messages me back, I'll be alerted, I'll see the dot.
And moving on to Safari and web browsing. This is another thing that just completely revolutionized
a real web browser. And we picked the best one in the world, Safari. And we have Safari running on iPhone. It is the first fully usable HTML browser on a phone.
Completely true. At the time, everything that you could do on a phone was pretty much what was called WAP, which is basically text with very little images, very little kind of styling in the text as well. It was basically so you could grab a little bit of information while you're out and about without using too much data. However, the iPhones just gave you the whole web. This also led to, I think, iJustine having one of the biggest phone bills in history, which kind of helped grow her channel. I think it was probably worth it, iJustine. Let me know.
Third, we have Google Maps. But here we are loading it. We're loading it over Wi-Fi right now.
So this was Wi-Fi. This was as fast as you get.
Rather than just give you a WAP version of the New York Times, rather than give you this wrapped version all around, we're showing you the whole New York Times website, and there it is. And guess what I can do? I can just put this into landscape mode, and there it is right there. And I can scroll here if I want. Scroll up and down here. Boom, still loading it in. There we go.
And this really was revolutionary, the fact that you could see the whole website.
Like now, this is really great, and I can see the whole page, but of course I can't read it. It's a little too small. So I can get in with my fingers and pinch it, but...
Especially when you've got 160 dots per inch in terms of your resolution, those lines of text just look like lines. They're just dots. There's no actual text there to read, even if you got really close to it.
An optimization here, I can just double tap on anything, and it automatically fills up the screen with it. And I can just scroll around like this, and scroll over here, and I can even make this text bigger if I want to.
This was a great innovation, though, too. And of course, when this came to the iPad a few years later as well, even better, because you've got that full screen experience.
And just double tap again to get back to the full page. Isn't this cool? And so I'm just, look at this. There is the New York Times. And again, any article I want, boom.
Boom.
Phone. Let me show you some about widgets here. Let's go to stocks right now, and we're going to load stocks.
When he says widgets, this is basically the precursor to apps that were kind of add-ons. Like the widgets for stocks at the time were in, what was it called? In the dashboard, I guess, on the Mac. I think that's what they called it at the time. Google Maps, this was something that was an absolute revelation again.
Here, there we go. And let's
You've got GPS on some phones, like I had the O2 XDA Orbit at the time. You could do sat-nav, but it looked nothing like this.
You see people down there. Whoops. There we go. Yep. iPhone is like having your life in your pocket. It's the ultimate digital device.
Pretty accurate, I'd say.
So what should we price it at? Well, what do these things normally cost? An iPod, the most popular iPod, $199 for 4 gig nano. What's a smartphone cost? Well, they say you get the phone and some of the internet with it, although that's questionable. But they cost somewhere between around $299. You can get them for $199. Palm just introduced a new one at $399 yesterday, so generally average about $299 with a 2-year contract. Now, these phones sort of do music, but nobody uses them for music because they're not very good, and so they end up buying an iPod to go with the phone. We know we sell the iPod.
This was definitely true at the time.
People spend $499 on this combination. What should we charge for iPhone? Because iPhone's got a lot more than this stuff, right? It's got video, real video. It's got this beautiful, gorgeous widescreen. It's got multi-touch user interface. It's got Wi-Fi. It's got a real browser. It's got HTML email. It's got cover flow and on and on and on. And this stuff would normally cost hundreds of dollars. So how much more than $499 should we price iPhone? Well, we've thought long and hard about it because iPhone just does so much stuff.
Steve loves
so
just
much
going
better
through
experience on a call and
what it does,
contacts and visual
over and over.
voicemail, random access voicemail for the first time, and texting and email and real browser and Google Maps and tremendous iPod and cover flow and video. And what should we price this thing at? Well, for 4 gigabyte model, we're going to price it at that same $499. No premium whatsoever. $499.
And this was $499 plus your contract. This was not a cheap phone at the time. Steve Ballmer ridiculed it for that. It still did okay.
And we're going to have an 8 gigabyte model for just $599.
Just $100 for the extra 4 gigs of storage.
So we're going to price it starting at $499. Now, when's it going to be available? We're going to be shipping these in June.
So 6 months after the iPhone was actually introduced that you could buy one, and that was only in the US. Then it was like later that year, end of the year for Europe, and the next year for Asia, and then they finally started speeding up the rollouts with the iPhone 3G and 3GS. But what was your memories of the iPhone? What was your first iPhone? Let me know down in the comments. What was your phone that you had before an iPhone? Was it anything like it? I think this was an iconic time in the tech industry, so let me know your thoughts down below, and we'll be back tomorrow with more stuff. Thanks so much for watching. See you then.